should we wait now or just try to design the future by learning how AI can be used and also how to learn how certain information coming out of an AI engine can be really considered in following processes.
Welcome to a brand new episode of our podcast, Human&AI, Minds, Machine and the Gradient Descent.
Thanks for tuning in to our geeky podcast, where we discuss the fascinating field of AI and machine learning, corporate craziness, passion for technology, and the role of humans. We are Uli and Avery, your hosts for this episode, and in today's session, we will dive into the context of how to generate value by combining different data modalities and actually also business ecosystems with each other.
Right. We are exploring the intersection of IoT finance, insurance data to bring a fresh perspective to traditional industries and draw new insights into tangible values. Can data and AI let us rethink leasing-based manufacturing business? Does the data fusion approach let's rewind the performance-based contracting domain in the industrial sphere? What role does bold aspirations, brave new entrepreneurial spirits play in the scene?
Those are really good questions. And let's discuss these topics with two colleagues who live and breathe innovation. They are passionate about pushing the boundaries of what's possible within and beyond Siemens, blending their entrepreneurial spirit with cutting-edge technology. And I'm talking, of course, about none other than Timo Mühlhausen, head of Data-Driven X, and our very own AI Lab fellow, Supradeep Chikaballapur Manjunath, head of product business of DDX. Timo and Supra, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. It feels like homecoming.
It is homecoming, right? And we start right away, actually. We love hashtags very much, right? And that's why I think let's make, Timo, maybe starting with you, right? What 3 hashtags would describe you best to the audience? And second, what's the most unexpected place you found inspiration for your work?
Well, I would say the classical answer on the second part of your question, at least for probably a German engineer, is while hiking in the mountains. Right. You are with yourself, there's nothing around you, silence and just you and yourself. That brings you thinking about a lot and probably also about daily business and probably problems you have discovered but maybe ignored in the past. So that comes up again and makes you thinking. So the end, that is, I would say, the most unexpected place where I found innovation. And the hashtags to that is, in my opinion, hashtag innovation for sure, hashtag data and hashtag curiosity.
Curiosity, cool. Super, what about you? You have 3 lovely hashtags that that describe you very well and a surprising place for inspiration.
I'm actually afraid because Timo took 2 of them. I would also say innovation driven. Second one is future ready. The third one is data enthusiast. Why do I say that? Because during my trip back home in India, in Bangalore, I saw a lot of people just scanning the QR code and making the payments in even very, very small shops. So that shows if you can simplify finance around you, a lot of processes can be simplified. That was one of the biggest motivation also to start with DDX, where we can simplify some of these finance and hence solve the problem for customers.
And what's the place you would go to for inspiration?
Ideally, it's everyday morning in shower.
Taking a fresh shower.
Absolutely.
To bring in fresh perspectives. That's not a bad idea. So in the intro, we already placed some hints here and there, and we mentioned data-driven X. But can you, and maybe let's start with you, Timo, can you give us a brief overview of what DDX is actually about and what even sparked the idea to start this company?
The spark for the idea was a very, how to say, you remember the times back about blockchain? That was, there was a hype train some years back, exactly. So we thought, why not running a blockchain-based notary service for data?
Is that's the origin?
That was I would say, an idea which failed.
Like it
The thing is, the thing is that back in 2020, I think it was, we did a lot of interviews. Yeah, so that was, running into, I don't know, 60, 70 interviews or so with no specific target group, because blockchain, who would pay for it? Long story short, no one wanted to pay for it. So we stopped the idea. So that's basically, it was at that time, yeah. There had been some strategic activities in parallel here in the business unit running, and 2021 it was, in the early 2021, some of the interviewees from 2020 called us back. And you guess what? It was financial institutions who called us back. And that was more or less the origin to think not technologically, but potentially looking after a new customer group for Siemens, the financial institutions. And that is how the thing started. So get rid of all the technological loves you had, probably. Yes, be aware about the domain where you come from, so factory automation or the OT world. But probably first understand what is this potential new customer group having problems that might be solved with a technological idea at the end. So with a solution which hopefully brings a nice new business for Siemens. That was the idea and the starting point.
Yeah, super cool. So Supra, what specific problem are you actually solving with DDX, and who are your primary users?
Let me simplify this for our audience. The core problem that we're trying to address is translating the IoT raw machine data into actionable financial insights. The personas or the industries that we are after is insurance and banking. Why insurance? Because they are after efficiently making their claims or handling their claims, or their underwriters needing more data to do their underwriting on the asset. For those who do not know underwriting, it's basically assessing the risk and then adding a premium value that you pay as an insurance fee. Or the risk managers assessing the risk of an asset. So all of these can be supported from the data that we generate at the machines. And that's one of the groups. Why banking again? Banking is because a lot of our customers, the machine users or machine builders, they are in between the transition from CAPEX to OPEX. So if you want to enable that, make a pay-per-use business, finance has to be enabled with transparency on the machine level. Those are the two customer segments, and the solution, as I said, simply transforming the machine data into actionable financial insights.
That's pretty cool stuff. But I can see how that creates value, and that you really connect that information that you can gather from the machines or the machine data, and to create value in areas where maybe like data like that was normally not that big of a thing, or it was hard to access that.
It still is, in fact. When you think about the value of data, who can quantify the value of data? But everyone knows data is the new, others would say oil or gold. But how to quantify the value? And that was exactly also our challenge. So we thought, okay, why not first start into business model innovation and then make use of data? And probably you can give it a price tag at the end.
And I think now we got a pretty good understanding of where you started and how you started. But what were like the initial steps to really kick it off and get going? I guess that's not that easy, like being embedded in such a big corporation. So you have a cool idea. It took you a little bit of a while to get where you wanted to go. But what are the steps now?
Well, there are several things you mentioned, and let's start with the kind of systematics. Is there really a systematics for innovation? People would say, well, sure, there is a kind of structure, a framework. Here we also have such things like validation engine or accelerator program. But at the end, it's more about get rid of your comfort zone and talk to a potential new target group. Talk, in best case, in my opinion, to a foreign domain. So I'm an engineer by education, so I should better talk to people where I can learn something. And this is what I experienced, at least with the financial institutions. So at first we had to learn to speak finance. There are some very nice examples where we completely misunderstood each other by using same terms. But this is, I would say, the very first moment. Get rid of your comfort zone, talk to a new domain, and try to understand them, learn their language, and try to then incorporate the learnings into portfolio elements that potentially solve a problem with value.
So it sounds weird for, especially I guess for the external startups, right? And Supra, maybe that's a bit of talking about a corporate startup structure, right? So that means Data-Driven X is within Siemens a startup, what we call somehow a startup, right? So can you explain a bit of what a corporate startups looks like, right? And how it differs from maybe a more traditional setup of, startup feeling?
Absolutely. I think that's a very important question as well. Within any startup, there is always uncertainty. There is always a challenge that you want to solve. Let me explain that with an analogy. So it's if you are going on a hiking trail, so your objective is to go on top of the hike or go on top of the mountain.
And meet Timo on the way.
And meet Timo on the way.
Because he finds inspiration.
And get down successfully. So essentially, climbing the mountain is achieving top line. So that's achieving or contributing to the profit of any company that you're in. If you're in a startup, you want to be profitable. If you're in a corporate, you want to contribute to the top line of your company. That's basically the essence. But then you think of two different people. One who has access to all the weather information, who knows the terrain, who has all the paddings for if he falls. But the other one is rigid. He has an idea how to go there, but that's about it. He has to figure out everything from scratch. So that essentially is what happens between a traditional startup and a corporate startup. In the corporate startup, we do have some access to clients. Of course, we might not have the exact persona that we want, but we do have access. We can generate a lot of support in terms of legality, in terms of IT. There is cutting edge technology that you can tap onto that's already existing. But what is not there is, what is also there is a safety net. If in case idea fails, probably we can latch onto something more. But in the external world, probably they have more freedom when it comes to operating, especially because all the legalities, all the support systems have to be built from the scratch. They can format it however they want without a safety net. That's basically how I would summarize two, corporate startup and a normal startup.
But isn't the safety net the hindering thing? Do you need friction? I would say, I guess, if this is for your life, if this is your passion, if you say like, I'm all in, my private financial things are in this company, that brings probably a different speed than you're equipped and with a nice safety net back in there. How do you see that?
I would say so because on the one hand, if you really go all in with your private belongings, so to say, yes, probably there is more this kind of stress level higher. On the other hand, you have to think about there is still a big brand, Siemens, that really opens doors. So starting an idea and being fast with the idea is probably similar, because coming to the decision point here, and a serious decision point, and is there really business, that's probably the same, because the rules that are applied are the same in our case. So it's not like we have endless budget, like even we are in a corporate. There is a clear expectation. Not profitable in a certain time frame. Okay, then we stop the decision. And stopping the decision, if you are kind of depending on it, it's probably more difficult, to my understanding, than if you know, okay, you work professionally on that idea and then can be free to hook on the next idea by still willing to stay hungry to contribute to the top line of Siemens. And I think this is something that at least motivates me. I love working in this brilliant company. On the other hand, if you ask me, hey Timo, but isn't the usual thing for an entrepreneur to find a nice exit? Well, this is probably something which is different in a corporate.
Yeah, true. And I wonder, because what you just mentioned also went along the lines of how do you deal with the challenges, or how do you embrace them? And if there's like a difference towards like challenges, if you're just in a like startup out there in the market, or in a corporate startup. And I wonder what challenges you faced along the way, and maybe there's a particular one that was formative along the way, or that, like, I don't know, made you pivot, or made you change the track. So what comes to your mind? And especially also right now we have a pretty difficult economic situation as well. So what are some of the challenges that you faced along your way?
So you take the first part, I take the second part of the question.
Sure, that makes sense.
So many questions, so many challenges, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, challenges are part and parcel of any startup or any business for that matter. What I really felt, or when did I really experience that firsthand? When we started talking to the customers, because it's a completely new customer segment that we're talking to, we did not hear for quite some time when we were doing customer discovery. So we rung up, we called them, cold emails. But after, I don't know, like 6 months or 12 months, you don't hear anything back at all. What does it mean? Does it mean the idea is not resonating with them? Or are they working inside their companies to resonate with us? So we have no clarity in that. This is something that we learned. If you sustain working in that period as well, if you can sustain that silence, people do come back. So if the problem of the customer is strong enough, we've experienced it firsthand, the customers will come back probably in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, depending on how large the perceived problem is. So that's one of the challenges, where we keep working on customer problems while expecting customer to return to us to do a business from the get-go. So that's probably the highlight of the problems that we've seen so far. Maybe I just pass it on to you.
Oh, maybe
Timo.
Before we pass it on, so how do you deal with that? So you send out a lot of requests, and you anticipate that there is like response like sooner or later. But what do you do if like people don't respond that much?
Well, one thing we got to respect is the businesses that we are working is definitely not a fast-paced business. If it's a B2C customer-specific problem that you're solving, it is largely easy to get the feedback from the customer. You get it from your reviews, you get it from your ratings. It's very easy. But in a B2B environment, we got to respect the environment where things do take time. So we are in a corporate. There is a lot of departments that goes through. However, we are talking about innovation, but it still has some processes attached to it. So we got to respect that. While we wait for a response from one customer, we would have definitely heard 3 or 4 highlights or 3 or 4 parts from that particular customer. We try to interview the other customers while we are waiting for this guy. We hear a pattern. So if there is 1 or 2 problems that is recurring in the next customer, you can actually try to build a prototype around it to get the validation. So we are simply not waiting for the business to come to us, but we are also working on what we hear in a rapid prototype fashion, or the MVPs, so that we can get validation on the customer evidence, the business evidence, and the second one on the product evidence.
So patience, rapid prototyping, and parallelizing. So if somebody doesn't respond, you just also continue working. And so Timo, now to you. What's your favorite challenge, or like the one that maybe cost you some gray hair?
Well, as a startup in a corporate, you also have a lot of stakeholder management. Is it headache? Well, sometimes, to be honest. On the other hand, it's part of the job. I mean, it's also part of a change process where we belong to. We try to build a new business for Siemens, but on the other hand, the way we do it and how customer-centric we do it, and also our working modes, we had the freedom to completely start that from scratch. So there was no predefined process how we should work. So the team itself was 3 years back, not even existing. So we had to recruit people, data-minded people. So we really had the freedom to design a team according to the must-have problem we've discovered. We early discovered at the financial institutions at that time. So somehow this kind of philosophy sometimes also must be defeated. But with the success and with the first business we get, there's more interest coming from the surrounding organization. So how you did that? And it's not this kind of aggressive tone from the top change management style. It's just, changing by example, in my opinion. And after 3 years, we really, that also motivates us. I would at least see it or hear it when I talk to the people. It's the organization around us is coming and is really eager to understand what's the thing that you guys did differently to make you successful. And here we are happy to share, even we have to stay focused. So back to the stakeholder management, which is part of the job. It's sometimes also as a challenge to stay focused and stay in the tunnel before you get out too early in order to get distracted sometimes. So here I would simply say, stick to your targets you have defined, stick to your direction, stick to the plan, and with the profit and the revenues, this is then the outcome which is tangible.
Okay. So, Supra, you mentioned already, right, that obviously that comes with a safety net. So there is also quite some advantages, right, in terms of, being, I don't know if you feel like you are speedboating, right, here, and as they usually said it previously, right, that there is a speedboat within a corporate, tank, basically, right, aspects. What are the top 3 advantages you guys see, when launching an internal initiative that should improve and increase the top line and conquer new business models which are totally new in your perspective, right, and from your domain? What is the top 3 advantages, the horsepower that the large corporation, right, equips you with?
Yeah, I'll have to think a bit on this, but the first thing that pops out to mind immediately is the brand that Siemens already has. So the moment we go to any customer interviews, probably if we are in an external startup and we go try to meet customers, we might not attract so much of attention that we attract right now. So the moment we say, hey, although we are an internal startup, we say Siemens, doors do open. So that is definitely a huge advantage of footprint that Siemens has. The second one that we see is the presence of Siemens in the regions. So let's say, for example, if we are talking to a particular customer in Germany and they have a running project in US, we could also tap into that US market through the regional organizations. So the reach is humongous. The third one, already existing portfolio in some way or the other, also inspires us because we might be talking about one innovative idea that we are pursuing that might solve a lot of that can add a lot of value to the customers. But we discover along the way, if we can tap into the existing portfolio as well and integrate them into the solution that we are offering to customers, we can be a lot faster than the external startups who might have to do it all by themselves.
And also a freedom, which at least I felt, coming back to challenges, but I feel it more as a freedom. A bit also to challenge the organization, so give challenge back, is as we talk about new business models, in our case, we really try to monetize data. And when you think about today's business of Siemens, we sell equipment, right? Software and hardware, professional services, and so on. Now we try to monetize data, not in the way like I would say some big hyperscalers do, more in a trustworthy manner. So we know our role, we understand the domain, producing industry or the OT world. We know how data must be secured and how sometimes also sensitive data is. And to monetizing this, doing it in a kind of classical way, first adjust your billing system, adjust your marketplaces, adjust your legal terms, adjust everything you need to have a scaling business running, would completely have slowed us down. So the freedom we had is coming from the customer, daily act. So we understood what a customer would be willing to kind of pay for the value he gets from us by using the data-driven X platform in order to consume data, and then coming backwards and kind of giving a bit challenge back to the organization, because the customer's there, willing to build business with us, but the organization was somehow not ready. So back to your speedboat question, Uli. Yes, sometimes we're a bit too fast, but on the other hand, sometimes I also feel it's good to have a solid organization and structure behind you, especially when it's about then preparing all that kind of scaling elements like billing system, legal terms, and all what I mentioned up front.
So we have Formula One race drivers here with us today, switching gears, always accelerating. And I guess if you operate in that speed, sometimes it can be too fast for some people, right? Also in our organization. And that probably also is closely connected with culture, right? Because now you guys come in and now you want to change the whole system, but we've done it successfully for many years, and now you want to, equipment is fine and it's tangible, and now you want to offer data as a service, or bring in new business models. That's weird. So I guess there might be also some resistance on the way. So how do you actually cultivate that support and that culture of innovation and agility, especially in such a large organization? We have so many people here. So
you know this comic where someone is standing in front of an audience and asking, who wants innovation? And everyone raises hand. And then who works with me? And no hand stays raised anymore. Yeah. You remember? I think that shows that says a lot. I mean, not only about kind of classical biased thinking, German way of thinking, but it's changes every time something where humans feel resistance. And here, I think, do it by example. I mean, this team, this data-driven X team is really a data-minded team, and we're starting from the beginning on to go into a kind of uncertain domain, at least for Siemens, yeah, and figuring out how a business could be built up, and also learning what is all necessary. Sometimes feels a bit like an education program. But on the other hand, this is really something where we can build something new, not only for Siemens, but also for our customers, the machine user and machine builder. So really for the ecosystem, we try to be a trusted partner in. And I think here, this is, it's still a journey. And the timing is really important. And it's more about staying enthusiastic and try to stay connected to the problem, and then I think from there on we can grow.
Adding on to that, I think Timo also answered that from the previous question. So he said the moment there is a customer who has a must-have problem and wants to do a business, things internally can be changed. So if you first ask them to change first and then, hey, there's a customer, the resistance would be a lot more than the earlier option. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing, I would also look into our team itself. What we consciously made as a decision is within Data-Driven X, we try to operate as flat as possible. Of course, hierarchy is important, but at the same end, if you really want to give scope to the customers or the problems of the customers that presses the most, you try to act flat and get the ideas up and running as much as possible. So it's a very cliche answer, I know, but it's fail fast mentality has to be lived. If you don't live that, then probably there's a hippo effect. So somebody with a larger salary or larger voice always wins the argument. So there's no room for innovation within the team as well.
So the two things I take away is, so first of all, we can disrupt or shift culture when by leading or by convincing people also through success or through by demonstrating customer demand, and also flat hierarchies and empower team.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I think who has the customer has the right? I think, I feel you. I hear you. I feel you, right? Because this is, who owns the value for the customer and who has the interaction with the customer, right? Obviously, that helps in, convincing also upper management, right? That this is worth to take a journey, is it?
Yeah, at the end, it's, you asked earlier, how are there different rules applied to an internal startup? And I mean, at the end, it's an investment case. Yeah. Our investments, so to say, are the managers above us. Okay, in simple words. It's similar, yeah? So you have investors also outside. Probably your, organizational structure looks differently. And here we have also kind of Siemens, salary rules and stuff like this. On the other hand, I mean, it's the same thing about the invest from the manager's perspective. They invest in something. It's not only the idea, the additional value they have, even the idea would fail, is the investment into a team, into a new potential culture that has a kind of snowball effect to the rest of the organization. And I think this is a strategic aspect. When we think about the strategic fit, it's not only the portfolio that startup works on, it's also from a kind of cultural and human capital perspective, this is something that also is an investment into the organization itself.
Shaping digital offerings and shaping digital native companies, right? And I think we obviously have big eyes and big ears about the digital and data-driven native companies, you know, who establish themselves as a data company, right? And to be frankly fair, Siemens may not, right? We are on the converging, right, in making digital and real world happening, and being a more software centric and software and cloud based centric maybe also. But now you have the opportunity, obviously, being a data driven company actually, and data driven acts is, you know, is a data platform, right? Though you know, as we suffered then somehow the chicken egg problem, which means like, how do we get the data, right? So you need to start somewhere, right? Can you share a bit of, you know, how do you make the cold start problem of, hey, let's be a data-driven company, and guess what? We don't have data, right? How do you get things on the table, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is as you said, this is definitely a classical chicken and egg conundrum. How do we go about that is because I kept saying we are customer-centric. So once you identify a real must-have from the customer, he is willing to share the data. There is a very wrong perception out there. You know, the customers are really afraid of their data. They are not giving away their data. But if you just make it sure, hey, this is a trustworthy platform. We are only tapping into XYZ because this solves utmost problems of yours. Then customers are willing to share data. That's number one. So how do we get the data from the customers? At the same time, there is also a lot of technological advancement that's happening. So within Siemens, we have simulation softwares which can generate tons of data that already has certain value. So we can provide simulated data to the customers and say, hey, this is our hypothesis. Can you validate it? If yes, that goes into our data bucket. The second one, I mean, we also have this running joke here. So a lot of times you can ask Gen AI, how does this data look like from this particular machine? Take that to the customer meeting and say, hey, this is the data that we have. What do you make of it? A lot of times we get a positive feedback, right? So incorporating what we have. So we also really, really follow the eat your dog food pedigree. So that's a very common notion also in startups now. So consume what you build.
Yeah.
So what we do is we also connect to our Siemens demo centers. We have machines that are running in the Siemens factories. We also connect to them. We rely on simulation data. We rely on AI technologies. That fills in the data pool. And then we also have the buy-in from the customer that actually gets the ball rolling. It's the snowball effect that we spoke of. Once you start from it, you have a validated hypothesis around the data. You have the simulated data. Just get going, and then you fill it with the real data because that is addressing the value of the customer.
And I think the second part of this chicken and egg situation is really on the business. Because you remember back to the times when software was, coming to business, and there were people walking around and saying, there's nothing hardware, I cannot touch it, so why should I pay for it? Yeah, I just need the software to make a hardware running. Meanwhile, it's clear. If there is enough value coming with the software, you pay for it. Every one of us is using software day by day, and even it's just in a car. Yeah. Similarly, it's with data. So I really see data will be considered with a certain value. So data by itself. Sure, it will also emerge and probably also get mature data which you pay, about a data profile from a machine, 1 data year of a machine for a risk analysis that an insurance wants to do, probably, costs today a certain value, and in the next years it will be cheaper. That could be, yeah. We will also see a kind of pricing situation here, but yet it's a bit early. So I really see that coming from hardware, software, and with digitalization now, there is really this kind of data as a new asset emerging. And I think here it's a very wise decision also from our investors to just invest in a team to try very early, how can we monetize it? How is the future business of this data-driven X potentially contributing to the overall corporate's business? Because we're currently kind of happy-homed in a business unit called factory automation. But the data we get asked to collect and maybe transform in a trustworthy way is not only from machines, it's also from buildings or other assets. So that is the kind of additional notion which comes on top. Get rid of the classical silos in which today's portfolio is. And yeah, that's also part of our journey. As said, happy home. Let's see where we will be in the future. Our business will probably define where our future happy home is.
So the happy home is the concept in Siemens that a startup needs to have a certain kinds of business happy home, like in a business line happy home, who is somehow sponsoring or at least, providing the environment for being, set up.
Precisely.
And looking beyond silos and boundaries or organizational boundaries that might be out there. I wanted to quickly go back to what you mentioned, Supra, because you said that you simulate data if you don't have it, for instance, or you also use generative AI, also to just show to the customer that you understand what kind of data they could provide, and make it maybe more tangible for them or convince them that it might be a cool idea to go with you. But are there also other use cases where you use AI or generative AI technologies and that support you in your business? Yeah,
sure. Because generative AI has created so much of buzz, it's really easy for us to explore what's happening out there. The classical use cases from Gen AI is text abstraction, documentation, data generation, or the text generation. Apply that to insurance. You have a lot. I read a really nice stat, that says 8 out of 10 people do not know what is written in their policy. So in the insurance policy, most of us do not read what is exactly there. But now with Gen AI, you just upload it and say, give me key indicators that I should be aware of. You already have it. Apply that to the machines now. So in the machine, if there is a production machine that goes down, the production engineer can actually just type it in our application. We call it incident reporting. Hey, is it covered under machine breakdown insurance that we have? You have a simple yes or no. If it's a gray zone, then you contact someone else, right? So that's one of the very very simple, understandable use cases for all the audience out there. But there are also a lot of supporting documents that the underwriter needs. So any underwriter to assess an asset goes through tons of documents. To make his life a lot more easier, there are generative AI-based platforms which can actually read through multiple documents and then highlight what is of utmost importance to make a decision. So this is something that we are currently leveraging on. There are also concepts of federated learning where you can actually learn at the different sources without uploading the actual data itself, decentralized machine model trainings. This is even more important because in a sensitive, privacy-sensitive environments like finance, you do not want to exactly upload the data of the customer, but rather metadata for a global model that has to be trained. So I would say, the advancements in federated learning and in Gen AI is hugely benefiting the field of insurance and also for our use case. I think if there's a claim has to be reported, claim has to be understood, it's very easy through DDX as well now.
And also the internal aspects. So where do we use AI in our daily work? For developing, AI is part of the standard tool set, meanwhile, at our developers. And also, I would say, I said earlier, to learn the language finance, it helps us a lot. We are in so many customer discussions or in interviews or workshops, and preparing or wrapping up the workshop sometimes brings you a lot of question marks. And here AI really helps us to speedily not only summarizing the workshops and so and building own knowledge bases, but also in simply getting information about what was said. So some terms they use, which we do not know from an engineer's perspective, is so easy to understand by making use of AI. And also in the portfolio that Supra mentioned, I mean, that all comes together. So a fundamental know-how about AI, all these buzzwords, GPT, LLMs and stuff like this, is, in my opinion, absolutely required today by every employee, in my opinion. Make use of it, because it will make your life easier or will also bring you additional speed.
You heard Timo. That was very clear. So you also just touched upon the power of AI and simulation and federated learning, generative AI. So what are some upcoming trends in the AI and machine learning space that you are excited about?
I already mentioned federated learning. That's something that definitely for a privacy based or where the industry where the privacy is of utmost importance. In our case, it is finance, but also think of health in years where the health data of a patient is of utmost importance. There, in such things, federated learning will be something that we are really closely watching. The second one is the edge AI capabilities. For the connectivity, we use edge modules, but any capability on the AI or the edge AI that you can do at the machine level is only adding more value for the customers doing their own AI on top of it. So edge AI and federated learning would definitely be two things that I'm closely watching.
But it's you're in a domain finance, in interface of machinery, IoT, and finance. So in a lot of currently hypes and topics around on Gen AI, specifically large language models, is about trust and can I trust the systems, right? This seemed to be in your domain quite heavily. Do you hear from customers then, if you're leveraging technology around Gen AI, right? Can I trust it? Can I trust the insights? Do you have safety belts, technology-wise, right, behind it in order, where some kinds these hallucinations of, machine learning modules, exhibits surprising, maybe creative, but sometimes, also uncertainty?
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of uncertainty with this, let's call it new technology, is absolutely present. Yeah. So this is something which is part of the kind of evolution of the future business, including AI. Mm-hmm. The thing is, should we wait now or just try to design the future by learning how AI can be used and also how to learn how certain information coming out of an AI engine can be really considered in following processes. And I think this is a normal thing, like we also experience in our consumer world. There was a first hype coming up with ChatGPT and stuff. Meanwhile, nearly, at least in my environment, nearly everyone at least tried it. There's Copilot, there's Gemini. I mean, there's so many free accessible AI meanwhile available. When it comes to business, I mean, there is a design-in time, in my opinion, currently taking place. And you see a lot of AI startups, I mean, kind of disappearing, merging into some bigger corporates, partnering. I mean, this is kind of normal. Every time when you have a new technology, you have a lot of companies popping up. If you have the right or the luck at the right moment, then you make the correct decisions to maybe survive or maybe go together with another partner. This design-in time, in my opinion, is currently taking place. I cannot tell you or predict you how long it will take, but we know that AI is clearly considered in all layers, not only in the shop floor, not only in the data space, but also in the finance environment. And I can, without saying too much details or internals, better start working with it and work with the right partner. With the right partner that have the right domain know-how. And then you get ready once the market picks up. And yes, we are probably a bit before the wave, but the thing is, following the wave is usually more expensive, right?
what we also know from the customers is they are also playing around. So it is, of course, they're skeptical. So would you jump on something that is new? Probably not. You will also wait, but you will start playing around. So this is something that we heard also from the customers. They have their own speedboats, trying to explore what ChatGPT does, trying to explore how it can bring value to them. So when we talk to them as well, hey, this is what we are doing, it's like, oh yeah, we have an in-house team that is also exploring. Why don't you connect with them and see what can be done? So of course, skepticism is good. You got to be skeptical on what the new technologies. But I think if you don't play around, you don't get to where you want to get.
So get your own jet ski and try things out before you get on the speedboat.
Try it out.
Yeah, let's meet in a year again, and then let's see where we stand.
Yeah.
That's a good segue. And so looking a bit more, future in the direction. So what are the next goals? Where is DDX going? What is your expectation? What is your your direction?
I mean, if anyone from the finance world, at least dealing with industry companies, haven't yet heard about us in Europe, which I would be surprised, may get in touch with us first, because I think in Europe we quite did our homework and understand the market. Our second destination is North America. We've discovered there already some target accounts and have the first very good relationships there. I mean, the market, it's not a surprise and no secret. The market in the US is usually some digits higher or bigger than in Europe. Also, the will to innovate is a little bit more evident. But nevertheless, this is the next destination. And I think we have a solid ground and a very good starting position here in Europe. So next destination is North America, and then let's see. I mean, if you ask me for a 5-year plan, we may talk about business planning and stuff like this. We can do it maybe later. But in our mentality, how we work in DDX, I mean, we build on the successes and the business we can generate. And I think that also gives us still the flexibility to decide even to ask for a bigger investment because of a bigger business potential, or to kind of serve a bit with the market in order to be ready once the market evolves.
Nice. So now we need favorite threes from each of you. Now, a lot of corporate and colleagues working, listening maybe to this podcast, and would be very curious. What would your recommendation, your advice to those fellas who say like, actually, I considered I wanted to ask my manager, or in the group, or I have an innovation community where I want to do an internal startup, right, or a corporate startup, right? What are the 3 advices you would give them, on the way before diving into that?
Yeah. So anybody who's listening, who has an idea, if you don't act upon it, somebody will. That's as much as, that's the truth, basically. So how would I start if I was in FA and I have an idea? I would possibly put it out in the public and say, this is my idea, I want to pursue it. Usually there is a helping hand. So that's how I joined hands with Timo as well. Timo had an idea and said, I want to work on it. And I said, okay, I would want to contribute. So put it out in the to your circle and say, this is what I would want to work on. And there is a methodology that is being followed at DIY now in the digital industries, validation engine. That's a very well established process. It makes it easier to come from idea to validated hypothesis or invalidated hypothesis. Both are good for you. If your idea was good to pursue or not, that's the second one. So go through this methodology. The third one is get out of the building and talk to the customers. Who are you addressing this idea to? So can you talk to, 10, 25, 50? We spoke of customer is the king. So why not do your research independently and get the voice from the customer? Then is there attraction? Then you can always say, hey, this is my idea. I went out of the building, went out of my comfort zone. I heard a couple of voices. People are interested. And there is a process set up in FA, and I'll go through it. I think that would be my 3 advices for the next innovators.
There you go. Timo, how about you?
Yeah, I think just do it. It's really nothing to wait. I mean, if you have an idea and you have thousands of excuses why the idea is not working, and because, I don't know, you don't get the budget, you don't get the support, probably your manager is not listening to you. I mean, Supra said it, get out of your comfort zone. There are enough possibilities in that organization available. And if you really believe in it, I mean, there is still a world outside Siemens, right? Also a lot of budget hanging around there, which is, if the idea is nice, probably coming to you. And here I would just say, try it. Don't spend time in finding excuses, just try it. I mean, you will at the end find enough reasons why the thing is probably scaling or not scaling. But I mean, if you don't try it, think about how you would maybe think in 10 years and someone else brought the idea to a success and you sit there and think, I should have tried it. So, I mean, that's the luxury and also part of the new culture, in my opinion, we have here in Siemens. You have the chance to try it out, so make use of it.
I went to a nice talk some years ago because we're also in Bavaria right now recording this episode. And then the guy, he was American, and then he said, he was like talking super inspirational about resilience and stuff. And then he said, but we need less net. And I was like, what, why net? And then he was like, less Hammernet, Kammernet, Wollmernet, Machmernet. So yeah, stop finding reasons why it doesn't work and just like get going. And with that, I would love to lead to our very end of the session, to our signature game. It's called Authentic Autocomplete. We do it with all our guests, and I assure you it will be fun. So for the closing, I would like to give you a couple of sentence starters, and I would ask you to finish them. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's try.
Nervous.
So maybe, Timo, let's start with you. AI is?
The next thing, make use of it, try it out, learn, make it part of your daily work.
That was pretty good. Nice. Okay, Supra, data is?
Is the new fuel? No, that's a cliche. Data is part of our lives. Everywhere we go, we leave an imprint of data. Some for, I don't know, digital data, manual data. You sign, that's a manual data. You digitally sign, it's a digital sign. So data is everywhere, and you will use it.
All right.
The finance industry is?
A domain which still has a lot of potential for innovation.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think this is exactly where a corporate like Siemens and that domain fits together in order to really build new businesses. Because at the end, we try to serve the same customer with a value proposition, machine builder and machine user.
We could print that.
Yeah.
But we're an audio only format. Intrapreneurship is?
It's a challenge. Certainly. It's a ride that you will wave. It's mix of emotions, highs, lows. But trust me, it's worth it.
Yeah. Surfing, jet ski, speedboat, cruise ship, everything. And last but not least, and this one is for both of you, if I could invent one rule for everyone in the world to follow, it would be? Easy one, right? Timo, what do you think? Let's go on more hikes?
The things you think about, you would like to try it.
Yeah, good one. How about you, Supra? What is your rule for world domination or not?
That's really a tricky question. I would like to answer that more on the philosophical way. I would rather say appreciate every idea that's around. So instead of quashing them. So if there's an idea coming out from someone else that you know, try and see if there is a metal in it.
Cool. That's a good closing. And Timo, Supra, thanks so much for your time, for jumping out of your speedboat into this room with us. Recording here in Pamek, those fellas who know maybe a bit around Nuremberg, knows the building. This is where we're standing currently and recording the session on a beautiful day. We really appreciate your time and your insight and sharing a bit of very honest, very direct, very techy, and very empathic, actually, a bit of your journey along the line of data-driven X. So thanks so much for being with us here.
Thanks for having us. It was a great opportunity for us to share the entrepreneurial journey that we have in Siemens.
Yeah, thanks both of you. That was a nice experience, and also looking forward on maybe the feedback we will get on this podcast.
There you go. You folks out there, you have heard it, right? This is not the last podcast, but, connect with Timo and Supra on LinkedIn, check out their website, maybe connect them with interesting clients, or if you're interested, right, connect directly and approach them. And folks out there, stay bold, committed and open-minded, and we'll hear us definitely at the next Siemens AI podcast. Cheers.